Neopian lore, what we got in store. Talking about the things that we love and adore. We're all over 20, but we're saying doors. So play this game. Love this game. Sometimes hate this game. But let's all talk about Neopian lore. Yeah! Woohoo! Happy Illusen Day, everyone! This is the first episode of Neopian Lore, and today we are going to explore the history of the lovable Earth Faerie, Illusen. All information has been pulled from the Neopets website and other official fan sites. I'll try to be as accurate as possible and attempt to pronounce the names correctly, but this is the fictional world of Neopia, and just for fun. I'm your host, Krista Boyman. Let's cozy up to some nostalgia. Far off the beaten path in the kingdom of Meridell, hidden away in the densest part of the Lightwater Forest, lies a secret glade that only a chosen few are able to find. This is the home of Illusen, a mysterious but kind-hearted Earth Faerie known for giving Neopians her unique handmade trinkets as thanks for bringing her a wide variety of items. She stands adorned in a short green leaf dress with a large brown belt and golden buckle, long green gloves, and ballet flats that twist up her legs like vines. Her bright green eyes beckon you close, large leaf wings slowly flapping. Green and red hair with one visible braid floats in the calming breeze. A name reminiscent of an illusion, yet her freckled face gives you a smile and she says, "Welcome to my home." As some background, when I was little and at Barnes & Noble with my mom, I spotted this fairy smack dab on the cover of a magazine. I had no clue what Neopets even was at the time, but you bet my buttons I begged my mom to purchase it. And here we are, 13 years later, still playing the game. She was the cover of the first issue of the magazine, and inside you can learn all about her famous staff. Illusen is an Earth Faerie who resides in Meridell. Earth Fairies are known to collect and store items and hide themselves by making their homes between the branches of the tallest tree. They can grant powers such as toughened skin, the ability to magically create food, or burrow into the ground. It's not known why Illusen came to Meridell, but rumors do fly about. Some say she left voluntarily, tired of the squabbling politics of the Fairy Queen's court. Others say the dark fairies forced her from fairyland. Under the glade is a cavern filled with trinkets and treasures, but as to why she's collecting them, even the wisest scholars can only guess. Illusen's hobbies include nurturing plants in her garden and helping Neopians in need. Her greatest moment was providing sanctuary to peasants during the Battle for Meridell, which was a plot back in 2004 about Lord Cass taking control of the Darrigan Citadel and waging war on Meridell. Her darkest deed is failing countless Neopets on their 50th quest. Illusen Day is on March 17th, the same day as St. Patrick's Day. Ireland has a long history of fairies. They can bring good fortune, but also be vengeful. Some still believe that the fairies still exist, and if you see large mounds of earth that appear at random in the landscape, these hills are actually fairy forts or wraith. Irish fairies were said to be banished underground and created passageways for escape routes, similar to our Neopian Earth Fairies. If the fairy hills or trees are tampered with, it is said that you and your crops will suffer sickness and misfortune. Many people in Ireland created fairy gardens in their backyard, small little homes and landscapes to appease the fairies. I searched to see if Illusen had any translation, particularly in the Gaelic languages, but didn't find anything. If I were to take a guess, though, I'd probably say it was an allusion to illusion, the distortion of the senses which can reveal how the human brain normally organizes and interprets sensory stimulation. Illusen has a strong disdain for Jhudora, a dark fairy who lives outside the city limits in Fairyland. It is unknown what started this feud, yet it runs deep. It is believed that Illusen witnessed Jhudora commit an act so evil, if revealed to the public, she would be banished from the realm of fairies, hence pushing her into Meridell. it was probably that she stole all of her left socks. Others question if the two were friends or even sisters, yet the Neopian Times editorial refutes this. Something peculiar, though, is Illusen has green hair with 2 noticeable red streaks, while Jhudora has purple hair with 2 green streaks. It's interesting that they share such a distinct trait. There is a book your pet can read called Jhudora and Illusen, The Untold Story, at 500,000 Neopoints, as well as Illusen's Diary, which can be bought with a whopping 3.2 million, so perhaps one of your pets can disclose what truly happened. Jhudora has tampered with some of Illusen's items, such as the hexed Illusen doll and a defaced portrait of Illusen, which shows the lovable fairy sporting a unibrow, goatee, and mustache, which is quite dashing, if I do say so myself. There are currently 148 items dedicated to the Earth Faerie and only 105 to the Dark Faerie, so perhaps Jhudora should stop helping her if she wishes to keep her popularity. On Jhudora Day of year 14, Jhudora seemed to have captured Illusen. The fairy replaced with a cardboard cutout with one of Jhudora's Bartimuses hiding behind. When you went to the glade, there was a recording that said,
"Hello, my quests aren't very good. Maybe you should go to Jhudora and do a quest for her."
Below, instead of saying, "Return to Meridell, where Illusen lives," it said, "Return to Fairyland, where Jhudora resides." Upon going to Jhudora's bluff, she taunted those by saying,
"Don't worry, she can't hurt you here."
The following day, things went back to normal. So, who's to say what truly happened? Maybe Illusen just wanted a vacation and Jhudora was in on the joke. Who knows? Now, the final theory is these two either fell out of a bad relationship or secretly have feelings for each other. There have been screenshots of Illusen requesting an evil Jhudora Valentine, how romantic, and Jhudora asking for an Illusen lunchbox. Back in 2008, during the 30th day of the Advent calendar, we see Jhudora sighing in her chair, wistfully looking around her room, perhaps longing for someone to cozy up with her on a cold winter's night. I've been living in Meridell for years now. It's so peaceful and serene, and I get to be as far away from those dark fairies as possible. Anyway, I have a couple of jobs that you may be interested in. If you can fetch me some items from around Neopia, I can reward you with some of these cool things I've made over the years. Aren't they pretty? If you head to Meridell, between Cheese Roller and Ye Old Pets, you'll stumble across Illusen's Glade. If you decide to accept her quest, she will give you 16 minutes and 40 seconds to find her desired item. The rarity increases as you progress through the 50 possible levels. Fail, though, she will bring you right back to square one. In return, she'll give you a handcrafted item, such as Illusen's cream cookies at Quest 1 to the highly sought-after Illusen staff at Quest 50, which is said only allows her most worthy friends to use it. This item is currently running around 26 million on the trading post. Illusen's staff heals the user 20% when his or her HP is below 20% remaining, blocks all dark, and when light is reflected, it makes a copy of itself into dark. You may not take on Illusen's quest if you have seen Jhudora in the past 12 hours. There is a monthly high score table for Illusen's Glade. The faster you complete a quest, the more points you receive. You can also do an Illusen quest every 12 hours, so if you're going after the trophy, keep that in mind. You can also get 2 avatars. The first is aptly named Illusen's Glade, which is a portrait of the fairy herself flashing the word Glade, which is given if you complete quest number 20. The second is completing one of her quests on her day, March 17th, which grants you an avatar with her doll flashing the words, "Aren't I a doll?" which is personally one of my favorite avies. If you do find yourself constantly having to start over, drowning in Illusen's early quest prizes, a user named Rosa Belk wrote an amusing Neopian Times article entitled Alternate Uses for Illusen's Underappreciated Prizes, such as stacking her cookies to make building blocks for your pets, or using the cucumber eye cream as vegetable dip. Yum, yum! Illusen also makes an appearance in the game The Darkest Faerie. Her glade is overrun by wereloops sent by the Darkest Faerie to steal her magical charm, and Tormund, an aspiring knight, comes to save the day, but ultimately fails. Illusen is seen collapse on the floor and says, "So dark, so strong. I've never felt something so strong. Her hate is so deep, she'll take us all the fairies, and send us to the black sleep from which we can never awaken. Oh no, she's won, and there's nothing we can do. Putting the fairies to sleep is only the beginning. You must warn King Skarl that she is on the loose." Her body is then taken over by the darkest fairy, stating, "This land is mine," and begins to attack Tormund. Later in the game, she is able to aid our heroes with her globe to pierce through the dark barrier, and her charm is returned after being found in Wereloop Woods, which helps in the re-imprisonment of the darkest fairy and saves Meridell. Illusen has several items depicted in the TCG. First being her staff, which the description has an eerie asking, "But what if it runs out of magical charges?" And her responding, "You can still clobber them round the head with it." Everything is a weapon, kids, if you put your mind to it. There is also Illusen's charm, a large green acorn that hangs around her neck and is said to bring good luck, defends against dark magic, and goes with almost all of her clothes. Another item is Illusen's fairy globe that has a nice parody of It's a Wonderful Life, saying, "Every time you complete a quest, a fairy gets her wings." There is also Illusen's potion book, which states if you drink anything from Chapter 3, you'll certainly need something from Chapter 4, which is a tad ominous. And lastly, Illusen's ring, a small ring made of vines that brings protection if the wearer says her name. Another TCG I found was called Crop Failure, that has the description of, "Not even Illusen's magic could reverse the blight spell cast upon Meridell by the hag Morgus." A blight spell is a form of necromancy on crops and plants. Morgus was an old witch under the thumb of Lord Darrigan and Lord Cass. She was tasked in zombifying peasants and pet-pets, and her photo is her holding a small doll of King Skarl and a needle, just like a voodoo doll. Perhaps she is also working with Jhudora. It does beg the question, though, if Illusen can't deter her magic, what would happen if she attacked Illusen directly? Who's to say? The last thing I wanted to bring up is there's no mention of Illusen in the Fairy Runes plot or the Fairy Festivals. Obviously her quests are available to anyone that wishes to partake, but it's odd not seeing her at least a part of the festivities. During the plot, it's understandable she'd keep her distance since, well, all the fairies were turned to stone, and that's not a great fate. But I think it's one or all of three things for why we don't see her. There's probably some resentment with basically being run out of fairyland. Queen Fiora, nor the other fairies didn't really seem to step in and help resolve the issue, whatever the reasoning is. The second being that she's probably scared of returning. From being in Meridell so long, it can be hard to go back to a place you won't recognize, especially after fairyland fell from the sky and crashed into Neopia. The same feeling of returning home after being away at college. Jhudora also still resides in the outskirts of fairyland, giving another reason to be nervous. And lastly, I think she enjoys the solitude and being away from others, doing her own thing. There isn't as much societal pressure to get out of pajamas or not eat ice cream for breakfast. I personally can relate to that. So that's about it on the famous Earth Faerie. Hope you enjoy. Who knows what she's collecting all these items for? To donate to the poor? To simply have the largest collection in all of Neopia? Or maybe she was the bad one all along and is planning world domination? Who's to say? All character license belongs to Neopets.com. Music was created by me, Krista, and strange background sounds you might hear were provided by my 4 rambunctious dogs. To finish our episode, let's end on some Illusen quotes you'll hear during your time questing. Taking your time, eh? It's okay. Take as long as you want. You should be glad us Earth Fairies are very patient.